We're here talking to Dann llisic from InSaltd, one of the most powerful and potent ways to hydrate your body quickly. It's also using Fascial Suite technology, which you're going to learn a lot about in this episode. If you've had hydration issues, you're a high-performing athlete, or you're just somebody who cares about your health, you're going to want to tune in and listen to this entire issue. Okay, let's sync up. Right leg over. Right arm underneath left armpit, left arm on top, head to the right, body to the left, and we'll do 6 breaths. Breathe in. Feel like I'm in my own little bubble now.
I missed yours.
So, should we cheers
I missed
first?
yours.
Yeah. I won't be insulted if you guys all drink during this particular segment. Cheers. Cheers.
Senor.
So, we're drinking InSaltd hydration drink, electrolyte replacement drink, and
What flavor?
Grapefruit.
which is my
favorite.
So we've been at this game for a long time, Dan. You and I started, 25 years ago, even longer than that, in business together, dozens of different projects. But years ago, we started off talking about eliminating stress. That was the first branding marketing statement that you gave us. And one of the biggest, and it still holds true today, it's about reducing stress in the body. And what we've learned today working with fascia is the greatest stressor to the human body is dehydration. When the body's dehydrated, we use more adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol to move. And that movement that causes acidity in the body, it causes our liver to overwork, our hormones to dysregulate. And this is all from just hydration. And we've been talking a lot about water today, but just drinking water isn't enough. And I think that's what you came to. And that's what we want to talk about here today, because finally, after all these years, this is your own brand.
Yeah.
Woohoo,
After
congratulations.
designing brands for thousands of people over the years, from the biggest brands you can even imagine, now you're doing something yourself. So why are we doing this? Like, why do you care so much about this?
So funny story. Well, I guess it's not that funny. It's just real. We were huge buyers of a brand called Element, and they kind of pioneered this whole high sodium electrolyte category. And you're kind of looking at the research, and it all just made a hell of a lot of sense. However, I was buying it for our office and for the family, and my daughter was getting headaches, and of course one of the remedies for a headache is to hydrate. Okay, well, maybe drink more, headaches get worse. Turns out she developed a sensitivity to stevia, and almost every alternative drink on the market, if it's sweetened with stevia or monk fruit or some sort of stevia side or a glycoside, and they were causing her headaches. So through a process of elimination, we determined that's what it was. And of course, our dear friend Franco had developed Glyvia, or Fascial Suite in human garage terms. And we were looking at that and going, you know what? Maybe we could make our own electrolyte drink mix that kind of follows this high potency thing, but is free of stevia, free of sugar, and obviously free of artificial sweeteners. And so we went down that path, kind of recognizing. I play a couple of hours of tennis every day, so I recognize the need for hydration for myself personally, and so the product was born out of kind of necessity, and maybe out of just a sheer desire to do something for ourselves for a change.
Well, it's interesting because there's Gatorade and what is it now, Prime,
Yeah.
and all these other hydration drinks out there, and they're not so good for the body because of the stuff that they're putting in them. And what exactly would you find in your drink?
Yeah, well, I mean, Prime is a good example. I mean, Prime is a socially marketed drink by some famous guys, and they've got distribution and all that. But for hydration, I mean, it only has 50 milligrams of sodium, which is really not enough to, to be a hydration drink. I mean, it's a drink and people like it, but you wouldn't drink it, or an athlete wouldn't drink it for hydration. Gatorade arguably started this whole thing in the 70s with, like a sodium-based drink. And I think over the years, it's kind of gotten worse with food coloring and artificial sweeteners and things like that. But really, I think there's been a fear of salt that has, I don't even know when it started, right? But there's like this whole thing of like, watch your sodium, bad for your heart, bad for your kidneys. And, the truth is, if you're hypertensive, if you have high blood pressure, then you have to watch your sodium, right? Because what sodium does in the body and how it hydrates the body is sodium helps your body hold on to water. And so when the water is in your vascular system, more water increases the pressure. If your body isn't adapted to getting rid of that pressure, then it has deleterious effects. So the whole thing with a higher sodium diet, especially for athletes, endurance athletes especially, they need the sodium, and it's the antidote to muscle cramps and being able to hold on to water. So it's, I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds. If you go on Amazon and you look up electrolytes, there's literally hundreds of brands, right? And they're all lots of sugar, no sugar, stevia, no stevia, artificial, no artificial, right? Homemade, pre-mixed, drips, drops, powders. I mean, honestly, it's endless. But we found a spot in what we like. We built this around with 900 milligrams of sodium in ours. And it was one of the studies that we found that showed, an athlete on average expends about 900 milligrams of sodium in an hour, right? So that was sort of the top of the bell curve. And we thought, you know what, that's probably a good place, to start. And the other thing that's interesting, people ask us, oh, is there like an ideal blend of electrolytes? Absolutely not. There's ideal blend for a person, but what might be right for me isn't right for you. And, I might need more potassium, you might need more sodium. I noticed like Aisha, for example, right? She's drinking our stuff and she's going, right? It's like, what are you saying? I think it's too sweet for you.
Yeah, the flavor, this one in particular is too sweet. I like the mango passion fruit, but I still put way more water.
Sure. So here's my theory on people who find it. So I've done, I don't know how many demos, and we'll do a demo where people are drinking from the same glass, right? From the same, same thing. And one person is like, whoa, wow, this is way too salty for me, right? And the person beside them is going, what are you talking about? This is like super sweet. And I think what's going on is people who find the salt very distasteful, like they can't really drink it, they don't need a lot of sodium in their system for whatever the reason is. And the people who find it sweet, it's kind of like the body saying, come on, load me up. I need more of this.
This is actually
Really
it's a body function. Like if you are extremely acidic in your body and you drink apple cider vinegar, it'll taste sweet. If you're balanced, it'll taste, sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the body will adjust the sense and the flavor profile and the reticular activating system to look for, crave, and accept things that it needs. And this is a natural thing. Where you see it really obvious is in something that's sweet or sour right away, because your body, the receptors are there. It's very open.
Yeah.
Isn't it if you drink, minerals, right? You just pee them out if you have too much anyways.
That's correct.
If
you
you're
can't
healthy,
really-
yeah.
Yeah, so you can't
Totally.
really take too much of it.
I mean,
Or can
I think you can, right? I think you can definitely overdo it. I mean, if somebody drank like a whole box of this in a day, maybe I should try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know what would happen. I mean, sodium and glycine and magnesium in high volumes can have really, like gastrointestinal issues. Like you could, get diarrhea, you might vomit. I mean, you can overdo, the ingredients for sure.
Yeah.
It-
But your
it's-
body will expel it naturally. I
Yes.
mean, even in diarrhea, it's
Yeah.
like, let's get
It's
this out of the
basically your
system.
body saying, we got too much of this,
Yeah.
right? Like, get it out. So, and we've had people, honestly, like people that have, like sports medical professionals, right? They were excited about the product and then they try it and it's like it wasn't good for them, but they still carry it because their clientele and their athletes actually really enjoy it. We got an inquiry from Canadian Sports Institute, which is the body for the Olympics and the Paralympics, and they were asking about a couple of their athletes are using our product, and they're asking, hey, where's your certification that you're for the World Anti-Doping Association that you have no banned substances and all this sort of thing, and and so we kind of went down that whole path, and I had the assurance that okay, there's no banned substances in here. It's minerals and glycine and pretty basic stuff. Nothing that would performance enhance, right? Anybody other than
Hydration.
a well hydrated body is just going to perform better. And one of the interesting things, and actually I'll share this with you guys because it's quite interesting. The study that came out of Australia about hyperhydration, where they're recommending 20 to 40 milligrams of sodium per kilogram of body weight, and 10 milligrams of water, per 10 milliliters of water, per kilogram of body weight, as a way of sodium loading before an endurance event. So,
I'm just go back. The whole world of science today is very disingenuous because of what's happening out there. And I've got to say it now because we're talking about it.
Sure.
There's a book called The Salt Cure. I read it back in the late 90s, and it was a doctor, really famous. He just poured on the salt, literally, and I tried it, and it had a profound effect on my life. And that's where I started changing my value statement, because the human body 75 years ago was 80% water. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, it was 70% water. Today, the human body in med school, trained right now in nutrition school, they're saying it's 60 to 65% water. So we have this continually dehydrated society, and the idea of overhydration is even bunk in itself. We do not absorb enough water, and when you touch me, I am completely hydrated, Gumby, completely like a baby. And this is, I believe, the way that human beings were possibly 100 years ago. I don't know, I wasn't there, but the idea of we are being depleted. And as we're being depleted, we need to put it back in. And this is where your product comes in and really hits the mark. People, when we're exercising or we're dancing or we're moving or we're doing things in life, we're depleting, that 900 milligrams. And if you're not putting that back in, at least your body's being dehydrated. And this is where I think the world of science is about to blow up on these issues. And it's going to happen, I believe, over the next 2 years from what I can see. We are supposed to have salt, and we're supposed to have a lot of salt. And you asked when it was taken out. It was taken out in the 90s. And since we took out salt, we've had blood pressure go up like crazy. Because when you reduce salt, the tissue dries. All those blood veins go through fascia. When it dries, it's like a garden hose. You squeeze a garden hose, blood pressure goes up. So we took salt out of the diet. We had blood pressure go up, and then we medicated the entire G88 nations with blood pressure medication. And that's what's going. So this is really, there's a lot of angles that we can go here. But this is a requirement right now. It's not something that people can just simply ignore.
But isn't it the soil and our food doesn't have the vital minerals anymore?
Correct.
Because we're turning the soil too much. So, and also, if you drink water and you don't have minerals in your body, the water will just go out.
Yeah.
So absolutely. If we add the minerals in, and if we add this in, we absorb more water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, you don't need a product like ours to do this either, right? Like a pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of fresh lemon in a glass of water gives you your sodium, potassium, and magnesium. But you're absolutely right. I don't know, maybe it was 20 years ago or so. I remember people talking about drinking, 8 glasses of 8 ounce glasses of water, a day. And I remember people in our office, I mean, especially the girls, it's every 20 minutes going to the bathroom to pee. And what we know now is that when you drink just plain water on its own, it actually has the same effects as dehydration, right? It takes the sodium out of your system, you get muscle cramps, you get headaches, you can get nausea. right? So it's literally the exact same symptoms as dehydration. So yeah, you need the salt. How much everybody needs is very, individual. But make sure that when that you are drinking enough, and you get water from your foods and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's not about the water you drink, and we tell this to people all the time. It's about the water you keep.
Yeah.
I mean, the current methodology is if you had a bathtub, and you unplug the drain. Our current way of thinking is turn on the water, just keep turning it on, which works to some degree, but at some point it's smarter to just plug the hole.
Right.
And that's what Jason was talking about with the minerals.
Well, one of our most famous videos was, "Hey Gary, what's white jug syndrome?" Do you want to explain white jug syndrome?
Well, the most common cause, we started looking at this, from a clinical side back in Hematology Clinic, and we were talking about this in 2014. 88% of our patients were chronically dehydrated because they were a lot of athletes or quote unquote healthy people. They're drinking all of this water every day. And basically what they were doing is drinking filtered or demineralized water. And when you drink demineralized water, filtered or otherwise, then it takes the minerals out of you, and then the body can't hold on to the water. So really the overconsumption of water was the problem clinically with 10,000 patients, was clinically the issue with their dehydration. And this is where we started changing our mindset. It's not about the water we drink, because I used to drink the gallon a day. And it's not about the water we drink.
That's where the white jug comes in?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you always see people carrying this giant jug of water, and they're the most dehydrated person in the room because there's obviously no minerals in there, and it's just taking everything out.
Yeah, people, if you have to carry water with you constantly, I'm serious about this, because people think carrying water is a sign of health. If you need to carry water all the time to stay hydrated, that's a sign that you're not healthy. And this is where we want it to change. It's a sign that you're demineralized because you're constantly getting the receptor. If you're hydrated, you don't feel thirsty. And that's really, that's the one thing that's changed for us.
Water,
Like,
Well, that's why even like what we were talking, earlier today, right? And you're saying this makes me thirsty when I drink it, right? And I think you're absolutely right, right? It's kind of one of those things. Like for me, it doesn't make me thirsty. It actually quenches my thirst.
But you also 2 hours a day, heavily sweating every day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, I wish I just looked like
that you
that,
don't.
though.
Yeah.
But I think the difference is if you're hydrated and you're taking that, now you have to rebalance by bringing water in to take the minerals out. That's just my, I guess.
No, that's exact. No, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what I was talking to Dr. Tom Cowan about.
Yeah.
Literally, is that the body is looking to have a balance of these things, and the balance in the body really is 80% water, not 70% water like I grew up thinking, and not 60% water where we are today. And it's the issue is it's the acute nature, the sudden nature of all of the things that are stressing us, taking the water out and taking the minerals out. It's our soil's depleted. We have chemicals that we're breathing every day, and they're depleting basic elements like silica. That means we can't absorb this. That's why when we combine this with our fascial flow and our fascial foundation, you have a complete hydration kit, which we're going to be bringing out to people. Is a complete hydration kit, because right now, because of the current environment chemically, you need to have 600 milligrams of silica in order to maintain the mineral balance in our body. And then furthermore, if you're sweating and performing, you need to also be adding in the sodium and the electrolytes as well.
Well, I think that's also what Aisha's saying. It's like, I think it would actually shock people how little water I drink in a day.
Yeah.
Like I drink less water than probably most people, but if you feel my skin and my hair, it feels like
you're hydrated.
Yeah. And this makes me thirstier because I feel I am hydrated. So it just really depends on the state that you're in.
You could almost create a booth somewhere and just say, come feel Jason's skin and hair for $1.
I don't know if Aisha would appreciate that.
I will take 50 cents of that.
Take a cut.
So,
I'll take my cup.
So one of the things that I mean, we had this conversation when you were creating the product was you were really adamant on having absolutely the least amount of products inside of there to make the combination. So what is it? Like, I know that it says natural flavors.
Yeah.
And we had this long, extensive conversation about what that actually means, because natural flavors today, in today's world, isn't a good sign when you see it on a product. But from the conversation that you and I had, what you guys are doing is very different. So what is it that natural flavors means when you're building InSaltd?
So in labeling guidelines, natural flavors covers a pretty wide gambit of categories. There's a lot that can fit in there, and you're absolutely right to think that it's maybe not a good thing. Ours, fortunately or unfortunately, is basically just the fruit that's been going through a process called spray drying. So we're drinking the grapefruit, for example, here. So what happens is the grapefruit juice and pulp is kind of in a vat, if you will. It goes through a process where the water is instantly evaporated, and the powder and the enzymes fall in, and that's ultimately what we're using here as the flavor. So the irony is as well, like artificial flavor actually can taste just as good and maybe even better. And it's actually perhaps even more consistent because they can chemically make it to be the exact same. But, grapefruits from 2022 might have a different acidity and sweetness profile from grapefruits of 2023. So there's going to be some variance and stuff in there. But we chose to have the natural flavor. We wanted ours to be because, I'm giving this to my family. And the thought of putting in, chemical stuff when we could put in the natural stuff didn't really make a lot of sense. So, natural it was all the way. So all our flavors, including the lemon ginger, actually has lemon and ginger in it. The citrus is lime and lemon, actually in it, and mango and passion fruit actually has mango and passion fruit, in it. And so,
But that
yeah,
sets you apart from everybody. That really does.
Well, I mean,
because
there's other people who use it, I think what sets us apart, honestly, is our sweetener. So first of all,
Fascial sweet.
Fascial sweet.
Yeah.
Which is again, its primary ingredient is glycine, which is an amino acid that's naturally sweet, and so there is no one else who's using that. That might change in the future. Also, when you look at electrolytes in the category, there's maybe I think maybe 3 or 4 brands that are what we would call in that high potency range, meaning they've got over 800 milligrams of sodium, in their mix. There might be more, but let's say just call it a handful. The vast majority have either very little sodium or sort of somewhere in the middle, right? And then of course they come with coloring, they come with sugar, they come with all kinds of other things, right? So, like I said, there's literally hundreds of brands on Amazon if you look up electrolytes.
Yeah.
Right. So every variation.
You're one of the only products right now that has Fascial Sweet in it. Why did you choose Fascial Sweet, and what do you find the benefits are?
Well, one, it tastes like sugar, right? So it's sweet. The sweetener is designed to kind of stick to your tongue a little longer. So it doesn't, you don't need as much of it to get that sweet sensation, right? And let's face it, I mean, the sweetness is really just for your mouth, right? It doesn't, once it passes there, it doesn't really have, any effect. Except also Fascial Sweet also helps with the uptake of nutrients. So its primary ingredient, which is glycine, is an amino acid that has all kinds of benefits. That's good for your liver, your kidneys, and the uptake of nutrients to your cells.
And the net effect of it is that the reason why I take this, whether it's InSaltd or just Fascial Sweet sometimes in water, if I'm eating something that's really heavy like carbohydrate dense or something like that, I'll take a little bit of InSaltd or a little bit of Fascial Sweet in water, and I'll drink it afterwards because it stabilizes my blood sugar, which I can feel immediately.
Yeah.
Which means that when my hormones fire, and then I have to recover, I have that dip in energy.
Yeah.
That dip in energy is gone immediately when I take InSaltd. And so because of the Fascial Sweet, it has this weird feeling like it gives you energy when you don't have energy. But really what it's doing is it's stabilizing your blood sugar in that process.
Yeah, it helps your insulin deal with the blood sugar, right? And so now we also got to be careful about making or saying.
I'm not. You're not making a claim. I'm telling you what my experience is.
Even for me, right? Like we get in trouble like saying things like that, even though it's like it's all part of the monogram for like the ingredients and such. But as soon as you start making medical claims, you are deemed to be a drug, and once you're a drug, or once they're deemed you to be a drug, there's all kinds of other things that you do.
Well,
So,
the good thing, Dan, is you can't make the claim, but I can tell you what my experience is.
Yeah.
My experience is my blood sugar is dramatically altered after I take this.
yeah, and mine as well. Like, unfortunately, I have a sweet tooth, so I will take Fascial Sweet as well. You know, it's my donut chaser, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
Actually, we do use it for that. Like after eating something sweet, like don't eat it very often, but
Wait, have you told Dan about our new baked goods?
yeah, we have. I haven't told you about
Oh,
that.
no.
We're partnering with, which I want to talk to you about. We're partnering with Giselle's Kitchen, Vegan Kitchen.
Yeah.
She is the #1 vendor to Air One in the United States. She ships all over the United States. She has 5 new desserts coming out with Fascial Sweet
And Power Kirk.
and Power Kirk, and they're called Sweets That Heal.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that since we're using Fascial Sweet in here, I think it's time for us to do like a co-branded
Yeah, that would be great.
nab.
That sounds like my kind of bakery.
Yeah. No, but it's really cool because it's these are things that we love. We put into our life every day. This is a product that hydrates the body. It has something that's core component of our everyday use, which is Fascial Sweet in there, and it allows us again, because we use it, we want to share it with everybody that's in our world.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we introduced, you know, the first people in the world to try InSaltd was you guys when we were at the retreat in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
So so yeah, that, you know, that endorsement or that you know, that vote of confidence is huge for us, right? Because we know we're on the right track.
So we just have to put it on the label now, Fascial Sweet, and then we just have to put a little Human Garage label
Yeah.
on there.
And the Fascial Shreed on there.
yeah.
Yeah, we need to.
But I think I was one of the things that I was most excited sitting you down here today was really to share the story of how this all came together. I mean, you created the new logo, you created the old logo of
Right.
Human Garage, and you've also been a huge supporter through everything that we've done here. And you know, I think that also is a testament to who you are and what you're doing, and you've done that just out of kindness and your own time. And Dan has been a huge supporter for the
Lots
Human
of
Garage
time.
mission. Yeah.
Lots of
Yeah.
time.
But
Lots
you-
of sitting in the office.
Yeah.
Well, I had a, you know, I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. But
I mean, you named it Fascial Maneuvers.
yeah, but I'm incredibly proud of what you guys have accomplished. Like you know, even the world tour thing, and I'm going, who the hell's going to come to you in Dublin, right? Like, it's like, really? And you guys sell out, right? So I am very proud of what you guys have been able to accomplish. And you know, people ask me all the time, is human, you know, is this legit? Does it work? And I was like, oh, I don't know. What's your risk? It doesn't cost anything. You know, just, you know, do the 28-day maneuver and see if it works for you. Just there's enough people that it works well for, that I don't know, people coming out of the woodwork and volunteer to help you guys with your mission. I mean,
Tens of
there's no
millions
better
now.
testament to, you know, to that. So
Tens of millions now.
yeah,
And millions of doctors now, institutions and sports. Like we were meeting with some major sports teams here the other day.
yeah,
I think we hit a new level. Like
Mhm.
it's always kind of uncomfortable when we hit a new level because everything that we do has to change. Like all
Yeah.
the processes and systems, and you've helped us so much with that. It's like, but now we're hitting a new level where it's people are sharing this even when we're sleeping.
yeah,
You know, there's coaches all around the world now sharing it. And now mainstream media is trying to get involved, and now professional athletes are trying to get involved. So it's like it's really taken a whole new height, I guess. And part of that is because of you and helping us with the language and share this and build the branding and everything around it. So
Yeah, and
nice
that's
to
the
see
other side of it. I don't know if you're going to stay in the branding business much longer, but you know, you have, you know, fundamentally altered the way that we bring something to market by changing the language, because what we do is so different, and you know, it could be confused as stretches or yoga and stuff like
Right.
that as well. But the idea of naming and like fascial maneuvers, the name fascial maneuvers itself, that was interesting. It was like maneuvers.
I remember when we wrote it up on the board.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pictures
yeah,
of that, and then
yeah.
I think that your big advice was make sure you spell fascial correctly.
Yeah. And hire people who can pronounce it.
And write a book, which we
Yeah.
still haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the the best parts about this, I think, is that I think that this is the beginning of things that you're doing. You've had so many great ideas in the health and wellness space, and ironically, not being a health and wellness guy originally, you were able to look at the most core attributes, like we started this off with saying that in analyzing it from the outside, that stress was the biggest factor. Hydrating the body was one of the fastest ways to take the body out of stress. When you go into a hospital, they don't give you a bunch of drugs. They don't hook you up on a bunch of. The first thing that they do, and every time, is they put you on water. Every single.
It's a saline drip. Yeah.
So that means that whether people know it or realize it, the most important thing you can do to affect human health in an emergency or otherwise is to put water into the body.
Yeah.
And this is what your product does.
So why InSaltd?
Well, we love dad jokes, and we like to say, we're always insulted, just never offended. And InSaltd is actually built on a whole Stoic philosophy of resilience, right? And so being independent of the good opinion of others, and like you just said, having a hydrated body is a resilient body, right? It's if it's not hydrated, almost nothing else matters, right? You got to start with the basics. You got to have that foundation. So so InSaltd. We had a whole bunch of other names, but InSaltd was the one that our web developer came up with, and we just thought, that's perfect, right? Because we had a few people that we ran it by and go, InSaltd? Who would want to be insulted? That's a stupid name. Right?
You have to use your personality for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, like I have a shirt that I wear when we go to when we do demos. It says "offended by dehydration," and so. Yeah, we like to have fun with it. I think it's a fun name. It's memorable. I think people get it, and it is really about getting more salt in you, right? And so that's where InSaltd came from.
Hey, well, if you've ever caught Dan and Garry in a conversation, you'll hear them have 20 dad jokes back and forth. They'll have dad jokes a week later. They'll complete it.
Yeah.
Actually, 25 years later, we're still telling the same dad jokes on the same topics.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's because they're still funny. Right? They're still funny.
They are.
Yeah. Or to us, anyway.
Dan,
So why did you start this with your daughter?
You know what? Because we couldn't find anything that was like the actual product because we couldn't find anything, right? And honestly, the stuff's expensive. So
No,
we
but
thought,
why-
we want to make our own, and I think we could do it better than anything that was out there. So,
but why family?
Why family?
Yeah, that's a big part of who you are.
Yeah, I mean it. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, we're very close as a family. So it's I work with my daughter. She's my partner in this. Right. So it's great. It's fun to do
So
something.
she's the brains and you're the brawn.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. Brawn. I think brawn is a pretty positive word. I think you could have used worse ones. But yeah, no, it's a lot of fun to build this together. So
Well, you have been a part of our family.
yeah, and you are part of ours. So no,
Thank you, Dan.
yeah, my pleasure. No,
Appreciate
it's been
everything you do for us.
great. Thank you, and thank you guys for what you guys are doing. It's honestly, it's incredible watching the growth is mind-boggling. Like there's no way, even you, the most optimistic person I know, never sees the negative. 5 years ago, I don't know if you saw what was, the path that this is taking,
I did.
but it's, well, maybe you did, but I was going like, you're full of shit, right? But, you persist, and you're honestly one of the most focused people I know, right? Like I always tell people about when I first met you and you had a spotless office with one file on your desk, and I go, who works like this? So your ability to focus and stick to it, and I know you have a lot of naysayers and haters and disbelievers and people who want you to fail, but you just persist and it pays off. So
Yeah,
I thank you for that.
Finally, I think those are the least part of the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even when we went to define fascia with you, it was I mean, this was all a dream. It wasn't really a palpable future.
Right.
Now it really feels like we're again hitting that new height. And I feel like we're so close to hitting 1 billion people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll have 250.
Are you saying your goals were too low?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have
See?
250 million people doing this daily by this time next year. At the current rate. That's what's really
Wow.
cool. And we get to the best part about it is that we're creating a system to radically democratize and the information that is about human health. And so part of it is busting through conversations like this.
Yeah.
So appreciate you. Thank you for being here today.
Wow, my pleasure. My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Dan.
I never take, I never not take an opportunity to insult people. So